Hi, Candice. Thank you so much for sparing your time to talk to Metal Talk tonight. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. It's always nice to speak with you guys.
Well, fabulous new album, uh, Seaglass. It's a very, very varied album.
Yes, it is. Well, usually that's how my albums are. I don't really do the concept album or theme album sort of thing, but it's just those moments that make up your life, So you kind of the moments that hit you so emotionally hard that whether they're joyous or whether they're sort of melancholy, whatever makes impressions on your life that makes us who we are today. It's those journeys. And I think anytime there's something that poignant in my life that lends itself to becoming a song, I kind of just take these songs and accumulate them over the months or over the years at this point, and then by the time I get to a certain amount of them, I say, now it's time to release the album. There's so many of them that are ready to just go out there for the rest of the world. So these albums always wind up sort of being a scrapbook of my life, with
Yeah.
different things that have happened in the moments. So this is the same kind of thing that goes on with that.
So obviously there's various themes that run through it, but eclectically, so, with the music side of things, there are there's rock, there's sort of more Americana, there's some beautiful, very ethereal passages.
Yeah.
You said about the various things that happen in your life, and you write lyrics there, and then does the music come at the same time, or is it just the music comes when you look back and think, okay, yes, this particular style will sort this particular sort of theme.
It's a strange thing when I write with Blackmore's Night with Richie. The music always comes first, and he writes the music first, and then he approaches me and says, I came up with this idea. Can you hum along here and make sure it's in, the right key or how the melody line should go? And then I kind of just disappear, walk through the woods or on a drive or someplace, where I always find if you're forcing the idea of lyrics, I've got to write it right now. It doesn't come. It sounds forced, so it has to, those stars have to align. Somehow you have to channel from somewhere else. And luckily when he comes up with the music, I'm able to just channel that music. But very differently, when I write with my own music and lyrics, everything floods out at once. So it's completely different. It's like everything just aligns perfectly. And I wind up, honestly, when I'm coming up with lyrical lines, I wind up already singing the melody that's supposed to be there. So it somehow all fits in perfectly together. And so the songs kind of write themselves in this way. I don't know, they're just like channeling the emotion, uh, the emotional journey of it all. And it all just kind of comes at it as one.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Because there's certain key moments in your life, and each one has its own individual flavor to it emotionally, in the resonation of it
For
to
sure.
yourself. And
Yeah.
so certain styles of music sort of pop into your head for that. You can feel up, you can feel pensive, you can feel, down, and
Absolutely.
everything flows through that.
So sure. It's funny you say that about the flavors. If I'm not mentioning the flavors, I'm talking about the different colors or the different textures, but that's sort of what paints the picture is we're never one emotion all the time or never one way all the time. And that's what creates us as humans. It's the wonderful dichotomy of everything that's happening, the differences that occur in our lives. And those are the things that are most inspirational, I think, as far as writing is concerned, the ones that hit you the deepest.
Obviously, it is a very, very personal album, isn't it?
Very personal. Yes, I've experienced a lot within the last few years, as I'm sure we all have. And it's the mixture between love and loss and children and just oh my goodness, so many things that happen to us along this life's path. But I think there's a little touch of every one of those avenues on this album.
But yours is quite a rich musical life, isn't it? Well, so you've sung with Halloween on Keeper of the Seven Keys,
That's
with
right.
Anastasia on Moonglow.
Yes.
You know,
And
so
more recently, D'Artagnan. I don't know if you're aware of D'Artagnan. They're a German band that put something out called "We're Going to Be Drinking." So I finally got to use the pub of our home. Here at Minstrel Hall, my house, we have a very European or English oriented pub downstairs. So it's very the dark walls, and we've got our own. The wood is dark and medieval torture devices on the walls. So my children will never have fear of anything in life because once you're brought up in that environment, really, there's
yes,
really nothing to be afraid of. Everything is
yeah, yeah.
that. But yeah, I'm saying with William Shatner, it's been very Tarja from Nightwish. So I've had a very varied sort of background besides obviously doing things with Rainbow and Deep Purple. Richie, of course, that brought me into this whole crazy wonderland life of the music industry. But yeah, so there's been a lot of different avenues as far as that. And actually, Halloween, it was their far as I know, the only duet that they ever did was with me, which is a huge honor and so much fun to do with them. Um, yeah, it's very varied, my musical and professional background, for sure. So I do have a little bit of everything from country on this to instrumentals to ballads, all sorts of walks of life.
That must be so fulfilling as a musician, in that you're not restricted. Obviously, Richie's obviously well known, for his session work, and then with Purple and Rainbow,
Right.
then obviously Blackmore's Night, and so there's been that variety for him, and I feel, as a musician, both of you as musicians, have had that. Tell you what, let's just take things where the muse leads us.
Absolutely. It's funny because a lot of people in our interviews have said, "Well, what direction are you going in?" And we're saying, we're not leading the direction, the music leads the direction. I've honestly on our Blackmore's Night songs, I've known Richie to come up with an incredible guitar like instrumental passage in the middle or some amazing solo, and then he'll listen back to the record, whatever it might have been at the time, and it happens often, and he'll say, "You know what? It doesn't call for a guitar there. It calls for a hurdy-gurdy or a string ensemble." And I'm like, people would have loved to hear that though. They want to hear your name with the guitar. And he'll say, no, it just doesn't, I can hear something else here. And he'll take himself out. So
Yeah,
for as many people that think he's probably very ego driven, it's interesting to see that he's actually driven 100% by the music.
yeah,
So
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
and we've always said that as far as the music is concerned, that it leads where we're going. But also as artists or people who are creative, whenever someone says, "What genre of music are you in?" And we're like, I always said, well, isn't the whole point of being an artist is to kick down the boxes of genres? Like nobody can actually, when you're creative, when you're having that creative flow, you shouldn't be put in a box. That's restrictive, right? That's your limitations. So we're kicking down the boxes and we're and just allowing the music to lead us wherever it wants us to go, and being part of that amazing journey. So yeah, we don't like the labels and the limitations and those box walls. We don't fit into any genre, but by not fitting in any genre, you kind of fit into every genre because it's really just strictly good melodic music. So
It,
that's it, right? It's not limited.
oh, absolutely. It comes down to that whole tenant that the man in black just walked past.
Hi. Oh my goodness, Richie.
It's the whole, the whole tenet of a good song or good music is good music, and if
Yeah,
you like it, then it's good music to you,
absolutely.
irrespective. And
100%.
there's stuff that does last for centuries. And in classical music, there's some classical music that is so as popular today as it's ever been.
That's
And that
right.
was written 200 years ago. And there's some stuff that's possibly written, today that again, may have that resonance in a few years' time and in decades' time. But who knows?
Right. Exactly. You just never know. And we've actually found that when we were doing a lot of the Blackmore's Night songs that there's so many incredible melodies and still there are purist bands doing those songs exactly we think, the way that they were done hundreds of years ago. The ones that we do, we pull on are for the 12th to the 1500s. But what we do is we try to keep the airs and the spirits of those songs alive by playing maybe a shawm on it or a Rauschpfeife on it, but we still update everything and we add new lyrics, new instrumentation, new arrangements. So people today wouldn't instantly get turned off by the fact that, oh, the song is a couple hundred years old, and because it's old, I'm not interested. Those people that just instantly have that, the curtain comes down and they're just not interested if they hear it's old. But if they hear the song as a new entity and they don't even realize where it came from originally, it becomes new for them. So they get to appreciate it in a brand new form. And sometimes we say, you know what, haha, this was a hidden history lesson because that actually was from the 1200s. And every once in a while, people will go back and they'll realize where those songs came from, and they'll say, oh my God, I can hear it. I can hear the remnants of that song in your song, but yet the song that you're doing today, I still can relate to it 100%, which I mean, then it just transcends time. These songs are timeless. They're beautiful.
And I think that, that's the key word that I had when I was listening to the album, timeless.
Mm.
Seaglass is so beautiful and shimmering, and I feel it is timeless itself.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
got the folk of Unsung Hero, the Rocking of Angel and Jezebel, which obviously is the first single. Interesting why you chose to do two different versions of that.
Yes, the original version was more of that country. I call it the back porch version because whenever we're just sitting around and it's nice weather out, and we have a deck out here and a little bonfire pit that we could put on there. And we often just invite our friends over with acoustic instruments and we sit around and we pass the acoustic instruments around and listen to things that they play, that our friends are playing. That's actually how we rediscover music that we haven't heard in ages, which is how Blackmore's Night actually wound up re-recording Diamonds and Rust and Celluloid Heroes, just from our friends just playing it around a bonfire. We went, oh my gosh, I remember that song. And oh, hello, my boy just came home. I'm sorry, my son just came in. Hi, baby. School time is out. But so it's very interesting to be able to rediscover some of these old songs that we were, that were kind of lost to our memory. Um, I'm sorry, could you? Thank you. He always wants to be here. I'm going to bring this back upstairs into my bedroom. But the lighting isn't as good up there. Anyway, oh, he just completely threw me with what I was saying. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
No, we were just saying about the two different versions of
Yes. Angel and Jezebel.
Angels of Jezebel,
So
yeah.
the back porch version, I called it the back porch version because when we sit on the deck here on our porch, we pass those guitars around and we get back to the old-fashioned form of communication through music as opposed to this communication that is so rampant today where everybody's looking at their phones and their screens. So it's nice to be able to have conversation. And then after I put out that version, the back porch version, which is very country based, I kind of looked back over the different songs that I had and I thought, we don't really have a lot of the sort of rocky, edgier song. And that's obviously a part that's within me as well. So I just kind of wanted to go back in because I felt like that would translate well into more of an edgier version too. So I went back into the studio and added some more elements that would be more kind of edgy. And ironically, that's the first track off of the album that the record company decided they wanted to put out as a single. So that's a
Yeah.
good thing I did that. And that's the first one that's now streaming. It's on Spotify and all the streaming services. So it's just a fun one. I love the visual between the dark and the light. It's always that balance of that yin yang balance, the angel and the Jezebel, the sun and the moon, the night and the day, it's just like that yin yang perfect
Yeah,
dark.
yeah, yeah.
And so I actually do have a sister who is the dark-haired, doe-eyed girl. And just ironically, I'm not that I'm saying I'm the angel. I'm certainly no
Yeah.
angel, but and hopefully she's no Jezebel, but I have to ask her husband about that one. But my sister's she's 7 years younger than me and about 5 inches taller than me. And I always used to joke and say she's got the youth and the height. Like none of that's not fair to be able to like stack the cards that way. But I love that visual of the darkness and the light. And So in writing that song, I took just the elements of that and just kind of jumped off into the deep end and made it a whole story song about this poor guy that is kind of torn in between those two worlds, like that tug of war in his soul. Do you go for the good girl, or do you go for the girl who intrigues you maybe a little bit more onto the
Yes,
dark
yeah, yeah,
side? And you know how many guys get pulled onto that dark
yeah,
side.
yeah.
So it was just a fun one to write, and the melody was so catchy. I've been singing that one for years just around the house to myself. So it was nice to kind of breathe life into that and paint it with the color, like we were saying before, had that texture and that flavor to it. So it came to life.
As you said, sort of, you're going backtracking ever so slightly about, the song is the thing. And I think it's lovely how you've got, obviously, Richie plays um, on Last Goodbye. And of course, you got, the kids on Promise Me.
Yes.
Did it
I was
take a little
lucky
bit
enough
of arm twisting to get them on there, or was it?
I was lucky enough to catch them before my son's voice dropped, and now that he's 13, he's no, they love doing it. They actually are, I mean, they're around music all the time and always have been, which is wonderful and
Yeah.
kind of exactly kind of what I wanted anyway. I think music is just this universal language and it's
Oh,
love.
goodness. Yeah.
Oh, so I think it's so important whether you can sing or play an instrument or not, or if you just play, CDs or streaming at this point around the house, just to have the family time where everybody kind of enjoys music. We were at the point where we were just singing, making up songs, ridiculous songs about what people wanted for breakfast in the morning or why they're not getting out of bed, just like break into song like we live a musical, which which is completely bizarre. But so much fun, and so music, we always come back to that. My son is a great drummer. My daughter sings all the time. She's in all of these incredible music ensembles. And so to get them when they knew that mommy was going into the studio and was requesting for them to be part of it, they were right there for it. They love it. And I think they just love being part of the bigger picture also. And of course, hearing themselves on a record was, they love that. But at the same time, they don't go out of their way to mention to anybody that they're on this stuff. I guess now that they've hit teenagerdom,
Right.
the parents are not cool. So so that's
Yeah.
okay. I told them I'm here to embarrass them for the rest of their lives anyway. So whatever phase we're in,
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Uh, and Richie, of course, Richie played not only on The Last Goodbye, but he played on Seaglass as well. So that amazing, beautiful rolling guitar. It's so nice and so wonderful to be able to like to sit there with someone who is obviously as incredibly talented as my husband. And when I can't get the ideas out of my head because I'm not proficient enough on any instrument. I can plunk it out on in a very skeletal way on a keyboard or a piano. So that's basically how I send my demos over to the producer and I say, this is what I have, but it's easier for me to hum it to you or to sing it to you. And this is the kind of instrumentation that I'm going for. And then we go into the studio and take things out and put things in and work with the whole process until I finally get out what I hear in my head. But it's a lot easier if I could just sit with Richie and he can just like do whatever he does magically on that incredible guitar. And I say, yes, that's it. Like he's already translated it from the madness that is that ensues within these walls in my
Yeah.
jam and makes it come out this incredibly beautiful piece on that guitar. And he hears what I'm saying and translates it so easily that it really it helps the whole process.
So you two work so wonderfully together, I think, with the whole balance of the relationship, because yeah, it could be fraught at times, but you seem to sort of really sort of worked well. I
Yeah.
loved and I got the going back a tiny bit. I reviewed for Metal Talk the Christmas release
Okay,
years ago,
yeah.
and I was absolutely thrilled when I got a message back via the PR that you guys really liked the review. So
Oh,
that to me was, that was like, a huge thing. So
oh,
it's good
good.
that working relationship we've got, sort of
Yes.
extended into Seaglass, into your solo stuff, and it's
Thank
great.
you.
And I a couple of things. I know time is very tight. I just wanted to ask you about. So you've got Dark Carnival, which is an instrumental. That,
Yes.
that was an interesting move. Yeah.
We have actually, ironically, that's my son's favorite song. He wants that as his ringtone when the whole thing finally comes out. Out of all the songs, that's his favorite one. My daughter named it. She said it sounds like a Dark Carnival. I'm like, I'm going to take that title. Thank you for that. So it's kind of like a family thing. We Years ago, Richie and I, we were looking for a piano for the house, and when we moved in, and this older couple who was, they were an elderly couple. They said that this piano, they were trying to just get rid of it. To them, at that point, it was just furniture, but they said it had had so many incredible experiences with the whole family sitting around and singing and playing. They're like, it's not perfect. It's got a cracked soundboard, and but it's our heart was in it, and they were moving, so they couldn't take it with them. And we said, we'll give it a home. Ever since we brought that piano into the house, it has its own spirits, its own ghosts to it. And it always, whenever I sit there and sort of channel whatever the piano just wants to come out with, it's always winds up being this Eastern European sort of like these minor dark scales. I got some of the songs off of my one of the other solo albums, Reflections, from there, called In Time. There was also Alone with Fate, Black Roses, all those minor, dark, sort of ominous, like sounding scales all came from that piano. And this is another one where I just sat and kind of tried to channel the whole thing, and that piano is just giving me these incredible Eastern European down in the pub sort of songs, and
Yeah.
bringing its own ghosts with it. So I'm just channeling those ghosts, and but it's one of my favorite songs on the album. I think it's really the way that it came out. I think just came out perfectly.
And lastly, I just wanted to mention the cover of Nature Boy with
Yes.
with your own solo album, because it's the first solo album since Reflections in 2011, wasn't it? I think.
Well, I did also did sort of I want to call it a lullaby album, but I say it lullaby album for the ages. It's called
Starlight Starbright.
Starbright, right? Exactly. So that was in between. Yeah, so that was kind of inspired by my children, but then went on to just be this an accumulation of these beautiful, not only lullabies, but songs that anybody could just sit and have a glass of wine and just watch the sunset too, and just when you need to relax from the day. Yes, but nature. Now you talk about twisting arms a little bit, but twisting my arm. Nature Boy was a song. I lost my dad in 2018 after a horrific year of him battling with cancer. And he finally succumbed in December of that year. It was terrible. And but at the same time, while he was when he we were when he was still coherent and we were talking, I knew that my dad came from an era. He was born 1937, so he liked all those really old classics, and we used to play them around the kitchen. And so I was kind of brought up on big band sound and Nat King Cole, like that was one of the areas of my musical upbringing. And my dad's two favorite songs that he could mention were Nature Boy and Crazy by Patsy
Yeah.
Cline. And when he was sick, and this was back in November of that year, and my producer was here working on Blackmore's Night album, I said to the producer, I would like to go in, and for my dad's birthday present, I wanted to record these two songs for him as a gift, so he could just listen to them in his time. And I did those two songs, and one of them was Nature Boy. And I played it for my father. And his original reaction when I put the headphones on his head and he listened to it and he went, "Oh, that's very nice." And then he walked out of the room. And then about 5 minutes later, he came back in and went, "Wait, was that you singing that?" So it was a bit of a delayed reaction, but finally, because at first he just walked out, I was like, "Oh, that's not what I was expecting." But when he came back in, he was overwhelmed and teary-eyed and gushing, and that's the moment I was waiting for. Um, so after I gave that to him as a present, it kind of, and then he passed, it kind of stayed in that special area where I didn't want to hear it, didn't want to touch it. It was personal, it was just that personal connection, and too emotional for me to even re-listen to. And then when we were going to put this album out, uh, my mom actually said to me, "What about putting out one of those songs?" And I said, "No, no, no." For a long time, I said, "No, I couldn't do it. It just hit too hard, too deep." And then I finally listened back to Nature Boy, and I thought, I really am very proud of the version of that. I love it, and it's really a great remembrance of my dad and of that moment. And I'm really happy the way that came out. So I thought it would be a good way to end the album and to give it to the rest of the world. And can't do, justice to the original, but it's my version of an incredible song. And I think it was just done really beautifully. So it's out there for everyone now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a lovely way to finish. So thank you so much for your time. And yeah, the album
Thank
is like such a patchwork of emotions and sounds and everything, but it's, beautifully sung. And
Thank you so much. I'm
it's,
so
it,
sorry about the interruptions.
no,
My
it's been good. It's been good. My son would be far, far away from the camera because he hates that sort of thing. But
oh, okay.
yeah,
My son's like going like this behind,
yeah.
right where you can't see him, but right where I'm trying to like blog. But he finally went in the other room. So I think he's on TikTok now or something. But thank you so much for your
But
time.
thank you, and hopefully we'll see you back over this side of the pond at some point in the not too distant future.
That would be great. We miss you guys a lot. Thank you so much, Paul.
My regards to you all. Okay.
I'll tell him.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.